This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
Time is precious, and so are our pets. So time with our pets is extra precious. That's why we started Dutch. Dutch provides 24/7 access to licensed vets with unlimited virtual visits and follow-ups for up to 5 pets. You can message a vet at any time and schedule a video visit the same day. Our vets can even prescribe medication for many ailments, and shipping is always free. With Dutch, you'll get more time with your pets and year-round peace of mind when it comes to their vet care.
Just in case you missed it, it's the top 5 sports talkers of the day. Now, it's time for Dan Barrero's Top 5 at 5. Brought to you by Gutter Helmet of Minnesota. Never clean your gutters again. Learn more at gutterhelmetmn.com.
I have a suggestion being offered that we need a super show with Craig Kilborn and Sam Mitchell stat. That's from Ryan in Minnetonka. That would be an interesting mix, would it not? Because
they play at a different pace.
Completely. Kilborn is Mr. Let It Breathe, laid back, let the bit come to me, and Sam is
more bully ball.
All over. Yeah, basically he's Julius Randle. No question about that. He's ready to gives Julius Randle a lifetime deal.
He's playing well.
He's playing well. I want to let's see it play out a little longer. Where's he going to go? I mean, obviously, I think that question will be answered in due time. Maybe it has already been answered for people in the organization. I don't know.
I think it has. For guest purposes, we're also in good shape, no matter who wins the series between the Warriors and Rockets. Should the Rockets win,
Mike Trudell will join us.
Mike Trudell will come and talk about how he still thinks the Lakers have a good shot and why.
Yes.
It'll be a level down from Trudell in terms of confidence, I think. Although Matt Thomas, our buddy who does Rockets games.
That's true.
He's got some confidence on the Rockets, so he can join.
Who are you thinking about on the Warriors side?
The Warriors side is the guy who we last had on the show. This will be a transition from NBA Summer League to talk about Victor Wembanyama.
Oh,
because he was, at the time, working in Las Vegas. One of our old interns, Sam Gordon.
That's right.
Who covers the Warriors now for the San Francisco Chronicle.
You're saying we're covered either way.
We're so locked in for the next series.
I'm already going on to the next round. What about Okie City or the Clippers?
I got to work on Oklahoma
Denver.
City. Denver?
Yeah.
Who did we do for Denver last year?
I don't even remember. I don't know if we did anybody. We were so cocksure of ourselves, it didn't matter.
After game 2, we just kind of let it all go. Yeah. I don't know who we did for that. But so for next series, we're in very good position.
Maybe we can get one of Joker's brothers.
Get them both in studio.
That'd be pretty good.
Get them both in studio. I mentioned San Antonio. I think a lot of people thought it was probably going to go this way, but the San Antonio Spurs Davey officially announced today that Greg Popovich will no longer coach the Spurs and will transition to a full-time role as the team's president of basketball operations. That's the job he's also had forever, right? Pop's been kind of the guy.
Yeah, and that's not a bad job to fall back on.
No.
Right? I mean, you can be very involved, but clearly you probably don't have to worry about the level of travel.
Right.
And all the intensity involved in that. So I was worried the next thing you're going to hear out of there was him saying, it's been a hell of a run.
Right.
But I think it's time for me to step aside, period. So that's the most encouraging news. By the way, did you see there are people at ESPN who are trying to elbow Pat Riley out of the director's chair in Miami?
I have seen that, yes.
Sacrilegious to me. I think it was Stephen A., if I'm not mistaken. And he did the old hushed tones, great respect.
Yep.
It's time. He did the old, it's time.
It's time.
It's time. Maybe I have lost my objectivity about some individuals.
That happens.
But unless there's health issues that really are affecting a person's ability to do a job, there's certain people that I say they get to decide all of it. Even if it ends up they stay 2 years longer than they should, they have earned that. I'm not going to mess with them. They will come to us, and we're not going to make a move on them a minute sooner.
Pop, very much like Flip, started with the Spurs as the general manager.
Dean Blevins!
I'm going to get to it.
Oh, sorry, Oklahoma City.
I've got it.
Oh, you were setting up. Okay.
Yeah, as
the bit. Yeah, that's what I mean. Not for this, but to be our source.
You're right.
If the Wolves are playing Okie City,
I hope he's still working.
Yeah.
1994.
Sean Salisbury in Houston.
We could do that too. Yeah,
anyway,
we could do that too. He's been coaching the San Antonio Spurs, Davey, since December of 1996.
That long.
So 29 years.
Well, you know what? My recollection is when he took over that job, he fired. Who was the guy he fired? He used to be with the Pacers.
Bob
I can see
Hill.
Hill. I remember ripping the you-know-what out of Pop. I said, oh, okay, so you get, who would he have just gotten? Robin? No, then it would have been Duncan? Whoever it was.
Yep.
I said, well, that's convenient. Now you got a superstar player, and golly, I'll coach him. But it's hard to look at it, what happened since, and say, well, that was the wrong decision, because I don't think there's any reason to believe that Bob Hill might have been able to take the Spurs to the heights that the Popovich-led Spurs went. 5
NBA championships, 1999, 03, 05, 07, and 2014. Good run as head coach. There is a Game 6 tonight. We've talked about it. The Houston Rockets on the road against the Golden State Warriors, looking to stay alive.
Yeah, that's the only game tonight. You're right.
Yes, and that is 7 o'clock Central.
And Clippers is tomorrow, Game 7. I think tomorrow night from Denver. I'm very much looking forward to that. I believe the Clippers are slight favorites in that game. I thought I saw that. I lean... I'm never going to discount Denver for all the obvious reasons because of their big two, especially their big one, although probably more important now that Murray's playing well because Joker's always going to play well. But I have a hunch the Clippers might steal that game.
DraftKings and ESPN Bets both have the Nuggets as a 1.5 favorite.
Oh, they do?
So
okay.
Maybe some money's come in since
might have, because I think this morning it was like 1.5 the other way.
The Warriors are 5.5-point favorites tonight, Game 6 in San Francisco.
Disrespectful.
I could bring up the Wild that they lost and their season's over. They're the first team in Major League Baseball, NFL history, NBA basketball, and NHL history, those 4 major men's sports leagues, to make the playoffs 8+ times in a 10-year stretch and never get out of the first round. They lose last night 3-2 to Vegas. They led the series once, 2-1, lost in overtime twice, lost last night in regulation, and their season, Dan, is over.
It is over. I've got a couple of stats we're going to run by the audience in our next segment before Lavelle joins. And I want to get your reaction to this text that came in while actually we're talking to Sam. This is from Jeff in St. Paul. You can try your hardest to discourage Wild fans. Like, that's my intent. People are interesting. Most are intelligent enough to know Guerin was trying to complete a puzzle with multiple pieces missing. This rant is mistimed. Do it next year if you must. All I will say, in all honesty, to Jeff is that's too easy for me. He's not wrong. We are aware of these multiple pieces, but let's remember something. Bill Guerin made the decision to put one hand behind his back. Now, ultimately, maybe he had to do it for all kinds of political reasons involving what was going on in that locker room. But let's remember that if that challenge existed, Guerin made it exist, making a decision that we can argue both ways after the fact, but that can't be, that wasn't injuries. That was him making that call. And I still think if he narrows it to this season, he's letting the organization off the hook too easily. That's my only point. There's too much evidence to say that there's some significant things that have to change, especially about, as we said, the power play and penalty kill as well. So, but, again, maybe there's a lot of fans who feel the same way. Maybe that's why they continue to show up and say, okay, yeah, well, one of these decades we'll ask for the team to get out. Because, again, I'm not here to discourage anybody. I'm here, actually, I think, to try to stand up for the Wild fans and to say, this doesn't work. This doesn't add up. Pretending that people should get excited about playing it close and being patted on the head by the opposition. We've been here in too many sports too long for me, if we're going to be big league, to say, that's great, everything's fine.
FanandBigDeck.com. Want to give you a shot to win bonus bucks with our National Cash Contest. Final keyword of the week is grand. Go to KFAN.com and enter the keyword grand.
An alarming wild stat at first blush that got some attention last night on ESPN might not be ultimately quite as big an indictment as it sounds like. We'll explain precisely what we're talking about and prepare for Lavelle at 5:30.
Dean Blevins, News 9, Oklahoma City.
I can't understand you. Food in your mouth.
I didn't expect you that quickly, Coach. I'm sorry.
I'm being serious. I can't understand a word you're saying.
Time is precious, and so are our pets. So time with our pets is extra precious. That's why we started Dutch. Dutch provides 24/7 access to licensed vets with unlimited virtual visits and follow-ups for up to 5 pets. You can message a vet at any time and schedule a video visit the same day. Our vets can even prescribe medication for many ailments, and shipping is always free. With Dutch, you'll get more time with your pets and year-round peace of mind when it comes to their vet care.
The legendary Bryan Adams is bringing his Roll with the Punches tour to Target Center on November 26th. Don't miss this epic night of rock anthems and unforgettable hits. And tickets are on sale now. All the details, KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
Earlier today, noted a tweet that got my attention, and it was Wild related. And apparently it was offered up on, what do they call the ticker, the ESPN ticker at the bottom of the screen last night after the Wild were eliminated. Well, this was a version of it. Losing 42 straight playoff games when trailing going into the third period is truly stunning. So
all this negativity that's in this town sucks.
I texted Russo and I said, is that accurate? And he finally got back to me on it, said he would do some checking. And ultimately he went to one of his favorite hockey sources, LaPanta. And here's what LaPanta tweeted out. Or didn't tweet, messaged to Russo. Wild were 32-0 this year alone when leading after 2 prior to Game 4. For perspective, the best team is 9-25 since 2010. The Penguins are 2-32. And what's the rest of it here? Well, obviously the Penguins have been have been a very effective team as well. So, his point is that number, that particular stat, which sounds dramatic, like, oh my God, in truth, even teams that are more accomplished than the Wild apparently have dreadful records trailing going into the third period. Now, it is a reminder, I guess, that just having any kind of deficit, especially in a playoff situation, how often it puts you at a disadvantage. We all assume, like, well, you're down 1 goal.
Right.
How big can that be
Just
going into the third period, even it up? But I guess the moral of the story is there are plenty of analytics that indict the Wild's playoff postseason history and condition. That might not be as smoking gun a stat as it appeared to me if it were accurate on first glance. So if anybody else can bring some light to that or shed some light on that particular issue, hit the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line at 646-86. 646-86. There's a word that I think, even if you're of the opinion that things are about to shake open or shake free for the Wild next season, for a lot of reasons, that I still think is important. And it's vigilance. I still believe that even if in the back of your mind you think next year is going to be the year they have the best chance to finally break free from their history, that it's still good to send a message to the organization and remain vigilant and remind them that in the game of hockey, even if we're all waiting for this one moment where we can break free of the Parisian suitor chains, that in total, that abysmal a playoff record should be acknowledged and should be a part of the conversation and should be concerning. I don't think that's being negative. I think that's being vigilant. I think that's trying to pay attention and to not let the organization off the hook. And as I said, we've heard the platitudes have been mouthed the last several years about special teams. Russo wrote about that again a decent amount today. He and I have talked about it a lot. We're not the only ones, obviously, but it still bugs me that we kept being told, well, that is going to get better, and we have the pieces to make it better, and yet they have not. And a reminder, it's not just big things, it's little things that end up distinguishing teams that make playoff runs from teams that don't. And you cannot, year after year, be hamstrung by a lousy penalty kill and a mediocre power play and be taken seriously at this level, no matter whether you're playing with one hand behind your back or two hands behind your back or your hands are on your throat. Because at various times we've done all of that in the Minnesota Wild hockey history. So the idea that there's folks out there who would be surprised that there still might be, even under these conditions, some pushback. Again, what do hockey people tell us all the time?
It's a funny game.
Get in the postseason, and you have share a chance more than any other sport because of the nature of the game, how volatile the game can be. And somehow we've escaped that volatility. We're the one franchise in all sports, but especially hockey, who somehow haven't. It's like, you know what? I'll do Bill Guerin. Have your goalie stand on his head. Have your coach his ass off and completely embarrass the other coach, even if you might not have as much talent as that other team. And that team, in this case, is 2 years removed from winning the cup. Hell, half our audience said, well, that's the team we want to play. Rather play them than Winnipeg, Louis included.
That's true.
So you can't play it both ways. Well, they're awfully good. Let's put it this way. If Vegas wins another cup this year, I'll apologize. But we don't know that yet. We don't have any idea where they're going yet. But we do know we got the proverbial, the pat on the head that all losers love. We played them tough. We tested them. We made them work really, really hard. So hard that they didn't even have to win it in Game 7. They won it here in Game 6. They won twice here. They won the last 3 games of the series. So knock yourselves out that it was close. 1-goal games, ultimately, right? All 3 won. The last 3, all 1-goal losses. I think
sounds right. Couple in overtime.
And whatever the case may be. Wild need torts, and then he'd have coached all 32 teams. That would be quite good. What else did I have for you? I had one other Wild text. Here's a suggestion. If you want ratings from Gen Z and it's Denver, get in touch with Brandon Perna.
Oh.
Huge NFL YouTuber, big with the kids.
Okay.
You familiar with him?
I don't think I am. I'm sure I've seen some of his stuff.
651 guy. You can't even lead the top 5 with the Wild when you're ripping on them. Sad.
That might be fallness.
Here's our political tweet of the day. Nothing like Pop doing the same thing as his hero Biden, being president while being senile and frail. You knew that was coming.
Bet that felt good to say.
KG, writes John from Hastings, said the same thing about Riles and that Spoelstra should be moved to the front office. Well, I mean, it's not a bad idea, but I'll leave it to Riles. I think it'll be more impressive if Riles decides. You know, he's the guy who says, all right, enough.
I don't think he's going out like that, though.
I don't think he wants to.
Exactly. That's what I mean.
Yeah. I would be shocked. But then in their case, it's like they're going to try to do something. The question is, what can they do?
Right.
I don't know what their options are. I mean, in all honesty, you take Butler away, the good Butler, away from that team. It's like, what's not all that surprising that that's the record they ended up with, like 37-45, which is a terrible record for them. especially. But, I mean, what did they really have? I mean, the Buckets comeback is always going to be, I knew we didn't have enough. I mean, that's always the comeback. He knew he didn't have enough in Chicago. He knew he didn't have enough in Minnesota. He knew he didn't have enough in Philly. And he knew ultimately, after some good time there, he didn't have enough in Miami. So he wanted to go to a place where he understood there was enough. And we'll see if indeed that prayer is answered, and it might well be. Although if they advance, it'll come at the expense of your favorite basketball team, the Minnesota Timberwolves. How much would that hurt?
Depends on how things go.
Yeah.
Depends on how things go.
So if we lose in 6 and get a pat on the head that we pushed the Warriors hard, you'd be okay with that? I don't think you'd be okay with that with this team this year.
No, I wouldn't be okay with that.
Especially after Day grabs Rudy again by the neck.
Right, has like a triple-double or something.
Yeah, that's also true.
I think I want the Warriors. I think it's time for the Warriors.
Yeah, it'd be a hell of a story for sure. Let's pause and chat with Lavelle. We'll get his reaction to the Wild being eliminated, his reaction to the Wolves eliminating the Lakers, and I'm going to try as much as possible to stay away from Major League Baseball.
Time is precious, and so are our pets. So time with our pets is extra precious. That's why we started Dutch. Dutch provides 24/7 access to licensed vets with unlimited virtual visits and follow-ups for up to 5 pets. You can message a vet at any time and schedule a video visit the same day. Our vets can even prescribe medication for many ailments, and shipping is always free. With Dutch, you'll get more time with your pets and year-round peace of mind when it comes to their vet care.
Lavelle is... Questions for Lavelle Neal III. Bradshaw and Brian KFAN text line 64686. Lavelle, can you hear us?
I can hear you loud and clear.
What do you got in the background? I heard something.
I don't know what they could have been. Oh, someone was walking out of the door. Sorry.
How does that happen? It's unbelievable.
I don't know.
Did you see the Rudy stat that got a lot of attention in the wake of his 27-point, 24-rebound performance in the elimination game against the Lakers? Players in NBA history with 25-plus points, 20-plus rebounds, and on 75% or better field goal percentage in a single playoff game. There's Shaquille O'Neal. There's Moses Malone. There's Wesley Unseld, one of the most underrated big men in the history of the game. There's Wilt Chamberlain. There's Horace Grant.
Oh, Grant? Really?
Yes, and there's Rudy the Stifle Tower Gobert. How about that?
And I would guess that, maybe with Wilt case it may be similar, but I don't know if any of those baskets came from more than 2 feet away.
No, that most assuredly has got to be the case for Rudy, that's for sure. Probably for Malone. Maybe for Shaq. Horace was capable of hitting an occasional jumper, wasn't he?
Horace could hit from 12.
Yeah.
He could hit from 10 to 12 feet.
10 to 12, yeah. About his limit, you're right. And Unseld was, if you look up Unseld's name, Gaardsy, I think he was like 6'8", 6'7", 6'8", but played center.
I want to say 6'7".
He was an MVP in the league and a terrific front court player.
6'7".
6'7". It's absurd. But built like a truck.
He knew how to use body leverage.
Yes, he did.
And his width and his girth and his hips.
I don't know if you picked the Wolves to beat the Lakers or not officially. But even if you did, were you still surprised that they were able to take them out as, you could say, efficiently as they did and kind of cut their hearts out in 5 games?
Yeah, I thought they win in 6. I liked the matchup. I liked the air superiority that the Wolves had. I thought it would factor. It didn't factor in the way I thought it would factor, but in the end, it ended up manifesting itself, I think, especially with the appearance of the play of Rudy in Game 5. I just thought the capitulation occurred in Game 4 when J.J. Redick had to play his entire starters the second half without even going to his bench. To me, that's almost like a white flag move. Just like no confidence in the guys coming off the bench, and he's going to go down in a hail of fire with his best people on the court. So once the Wolves won that game, I was like, oh, it's just a matter of time now. So the Wolves handled everything the Lakers could throw at them. They beat them when they tried to take advantage of Conley on the court. They beat them trying to run around Rudy for a little bit. They beat them even when they had the two of the best closers in the history of in basketball, Luka and LeBron. Every different way that you can come up, the Wolves were able to have a counter for what the Lakers were offering them. And so, no, I'm not surprised that the Wolves won the series. Slightly surprised that they won in 5. I expected in 6. The great thing is that damn near every national pundit had the Lakers winning this series just because of the names.
ESPN.
It was Luka and LeBron.
Right.
Luka and LeBron. It was because of the name and the status that over lowly flyover country Minnesota once again. There's no way the Lakers could possibly lose to this bunch. They got Julius Randle. He's never played well in the playoffs. They gave away Karl Anthony Towns. He's a great player. He's no good. They're no good without him. They just automatically went Lakers, and they got burned because the Lakers have 2.5 good players. I'll give Austin Reeves some credit here, but the rest of that group couldn't crack the Wolves' top 8 rotation, I don't think. So I think that this was a proper result in the series. And now you move on, and the Wolves actually have a favorable matchup for either one of their 2 possible opponents.
They beat the Lakers, and they beat up the Lakers. That's the other thing. I don't know that I necessarily – that was the other part of it I didn't expect. I think they enjoyed, shall we say in the business, colliding with some big-name Lakers every once in a while, pounding on them a little bit. By the way, we come to find out today, LeBron ended up with an MCL injury.
I saw that.
And Luka, is I think he's been in a wheelchair the last 2 or 3 days after DiVincenzo flattened him in Game 5. So we had that, and then there was remember the collision at midcourt between Julius Randle and Luka, where I think we kind of like banging on them a little bit, taking a little bit of the extra starch out of them.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right about that. We didn't see that aspect coming. I thought LeBron was kind of over dramatizing in his injury for a bit until we found out that the MRI it showed like a moderate MCL sprain. So, because he's been known to over dramatize some of these collisions and these bumps and bruises.
Right.
He's actually peaked at the officials just to make sure they're doing what he wants them to do at the time before he gets up and pretends to limp off the court. So, Luka, I said, man, Dan, someone put on X last night a compilation of young Luka with his first couple years when he came into the league.
Gaardsy mentioned
he was shaking everybody. He was taking everybody to the rim. He was raising up, dunking over people. He had quicks. He had hops. It was beautiful. He was beautiful. And now he's playing like he's playing at Lifetime Fitness. It's a pickup game. He's slowly walking up the court and just wants to get his body on someone so he can just back him down within 25 feet and do a turnaround fadeaway. You see this now, and you understand why Dallas chose to move on from this guy. It's still it's a gut punch to Mavericks fans, but man, he's not the guy that Dallas drafted. No,
that's what happens when you start eating 3 or 4 beef and cheddars with like 2 orders of potato cakes every day. That's what happens.
Well, the caption under the compilation said, Luka, before he started eating American food.
There it is. Exactly it.
RFK Jr. is filing that away. He goes, look what happened to Luka.
That's it.
By the way, Austin Reeves apparently was also dealing with a left big toe sprain.
Of course.
It was considered to be a 2 to 4 week injury, but he gutted it out.
So by the time the weekend is done, are we going to have to? The Wolves going to have to apologize for winning the series at all?
I think we're already there. What was J.J. Redick dealing with? I'm sure he had some type of illness.
He probably. He probably did.
Screw that. You take the W and move on, because the Wolves and Minnesota sports teams on the other side have been on this side before, and it's terrible it's happened to somebody else, but you can't show any remorse over this. Forget this. Move forward. And I'm sorry I don't know what your line of your chain of events was going on for this segment, but I'm ticked off. Well, I'm wound up because I was on the Wild post-game show last night with Fallness and Pat Micheletti, and we were talking about how the fans should be fired up because the next 2 or 3 years are going to be great. The young core is going to get better. They've got year off coming, and now the money's off the books, so they can spend on free agency. This is like the time to be fired up about the future of the Wild. And then I got home at about 1 o'clock in the morning, and before I went to bed, I looked at X, and I saw this stat that said the Wolves, that for the first time in American pro sports history, just the 4 men's sports, football, basketball, baseball,
correct,
hockey, the Wild are the first team to make the playoffs 8 out of 10 years and lose in their first round every time. I said, damn. I said, fans have to be sick of this stuff. So it just got me thinking about the calamity that has been the Minnesota pro sports scene over the last, 30 years?
Correct.
40 years?
40, yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? No, they shouldn't be happy. They should be pissed because they've seen this before. It just come in different packages, different forms,
exactly
different shapes.
Right.
So no, if the Wolves are going to beat up the Lakers and send LeBron and Luka to the hospital while doing so, take the W, move on, and see what we can do in the next round. Forget looking for tomorrow. Enjoying today, because they're not used to having winners here. The last team that won out of that group, people want their family run out of town now.
Now, that's, you're preaching to my choir on that. I have felt that all along, and I think to turn it into, now the shackles are off because of the Parisi Suter contracts. I mean, that has nothing to do with some of the personnel decisions, some of the trades. I mean, take Nyquist as an example. I mean, he ends up being probably too much of the villain because of the offside penalty. But the fact is that only underscored he's done almost nothing since he got here. And so you can say that this was too hard a year and next year everything's different. But that lets, I think, Guerin and the organization off the hook too easily, because there are personnel moves that did not have to be made, trades that did not have to be made, that have also contributed to the position that this team is in before these so-called shackles are out. So I think people have every right, even if you think it is about to get better, to say, no, man, we're just asking to get out of round 1, for God's sake, let alone the idea of actually making some kind of a Stanley Cup run.
I agree. I mean, I'm on the countdown to the Brock Nelson press conference. I'm waiting for that one to happen because I think that has to happen this offseason, bringing the Warworld star back home. But here's the thing, and because of the financial constraints, Billy G has had to pick around the third and fourth lines, basically. Those are the type of players he's been trying to pick and choose and add. But he swung and missed on Nyquist, who's not the guy he was 2 years ago when he was with the Wild. He has played in, I believe, in 84, 85 playoff games in his career. For him to have a lack of awareness, not to at least straddle the blue line on that play, it was just baffling. And then he did not score a goal. I don't think maybe he had 1 assist. Maybe he didn't. No, I think he was scoreless in this series. That's terrible. And then Billy made the trade for the fourth liner in Brazil, who's just a big guy who's not the greatest skater in the world, and when he could forecheck, he's pretty effective, and I'm sure that's what Billy was looking for, but he's not going to give you anything offensively. And actually, we could extend this out a little bit. The signing of Jakob Treinen was supposed to fix the power play or the penalty kill, and special teams is still an issue with this squad. So, Billy hasn't made solid contact a couple times. I can't, like I said, when you're picking around the third or fourth lines, I get that. With Treinen, that was a miss. And when you're dealing with financial constraints, you can't miss. You got to be sure these guys are going to come in and make a difference. But
let me give you these rankings. Let me give you some rankings, Lavelle. Penalty kill, last 3 Wild playoff appearances. statistically, where we compare to the other, there's 16 teams in the playoffs. Penalty kill percentage, 10th, 15th, and 13th. Penalty kill last 3 regular seasons, 30th, 31st. Power play percentage, success obviously. Playoffs, 10th, regular season, 20th, 10th, 15th. I mean, there's no secret. You have to be, if you're looking for the extra, oomph, that extra edge, you have to be better in at least one of those areas. And you could say, in all honesty, you have to be much better in both. And as long as you're not, your chances are you're not going to go anywhere.
Well, it tells me they need better players. They just don't have the right players for those roles. It reminds me covering the Twins when I went and had a conversation with Tom Kelly once about how do you improve it with runners in scoring position? How can you get these guys to produce when there's people on second and third? Tom just looked at me and said, you get better players. So I see this too. And fortunately, now they have some money to spend. Instead of spending $4 million on a Jakob Treinen, however you pronounce his last name,
Treinen.
You could spend $6 or $7 million on a guy who's more of a two-way player who is good enough to land on the penalty kill or the power play, and add some value to that. So,
well, and let's remember also,
hope he can correct that mistake. Hope he can correct that mistake this offseason.
True, but Russo has already warned us weeks ago. You ain't going to have as much money as you think, because obviously, the Kaprizov contract, it probably wouldn't count net for next year, even if you extend them. But the existing contracts, the other contracts involving existing players, you're going to have some money, but it's not like with the Vikings that you're going to have suddenly an extra like $55 million to spend, get whatever you want to get in free agency. It's not going to be anything like that.
No, you're right. You're right. This is an NFL where there's a couple teams. Actually, I think there is an NHL team that has $40 million in cap space. I was kind of looking at that today. But the NHL salary cap is going up by $7.5 million next year, which compared to recent years is a huge jump. And it looks like it's going to go up decently over the next 2 or 3 years. So they'll have some money based on the savings from the Parisi and Sutter contracts. Kaprizov could eat in that. Favor jumps up to $8 million a year next year. That's going to eat to that. But you are getting $7.5 million more in cap space to deal with as well. So I think Billy can make one splash in free agency. Hopefully he makes the right splash.
Did you tell me which team you think would be a tougher challenge for the Wolves in the next round? We talked about.
Well, I thought Houston would be. Now people are saying Houston would be the easier matchup for the Wolfies in the second round. I'm rooting for a Golden State matchup, right? Just because the storylines would be dripping with storylines. You'd have Rudy versus Draymond.
Yeah.
You'd have Jimmy Butler,
town.
who came in and out here in the New York Minute. So I think that would be a really cool series. And once again, that's a team that doesn't have a lot of size, and that's something that the Wolves could exploit. Steph Curry could be more dangerous than LeBron at this stage of his career.
Yes.
One of the greatest shooters in the history of the NBA. And then the other thing, too, here's the thing. If you're thumbing through channels and you're watching, you turn on, like, Columbus versus Edmonton in hockey, okay, whatever. And you're looking at, Mets versus Dodgers in baseball. I may look at it a little bit. Then you run into Warriors, Nuggets. Well, I got to watch this. I got to watch Curry. Curry's going to make you stop and kind of pay attention for a little bit to see if he's going to get on the heater. Because you just don't know when all of a sudden he's going to score like 10 points in 3 minutes. And that's the beauty of his game. And I just think it would be a fun series if they don't play the Warriors. But right now, the Wolves have to be rooting for this one to go 7, and they beat each other up. And so they come limping into the House of Howell, that is Target Center, for the second round of the postseason.
Are you looking for a sneaky column angle that no one is aware of or very few people have talked about or written about for that series? If it is Golden State, you looking for something a little different?
Always.
I'm going to give it to you. I shouldn't give it to you on 100,000 Watt Radio, but I'm going to. The Wolves could have drafted Steph Curry. Did you know that?
Oh, what?
Yeah.
What?
Twice.
Are you kidding me?
We passed on him twice.
God.
Yeah.
That's worse than the Bulls losing the coin flip for Magic Johnson.
Yeah. Do you know who the Bulls ended up drafting when they lost
David
the coin
Greenwood.
Very good. David Greenwood. Not a bad player, but not exactly Irvin Magic Johnson.
No. Yeah, and that was David Kahn, right?
That was the Meerkat. That was David Kahn. But he just fits. Part of the malaise is the Minnesota Pro Sports team. He's one of the faces of the problem. There's no doubt.
I don't know.
Him getting the job in the first place. And sitting there in the stands and with the eighth row just looking smug for 48 minutes a night. Just drove me up the wall.
At the risk of sounding like I'm trying to suck up to a general manager in this town, in all honesty, I wonder if, I know Gaardsy appreciates this, but I don't know how many Wolves fans do. Do you know how much better, with that being the contrast, that being the other end of it, the situation, you forget, that guy once ran this basketball operation. You now have in his place Tim Conley, who exudes what? Competence, professionalism, ability, experience. And look, that doesn't mean he's always going to make the right decision, but I don't think that's something that any Wolves fan can take. Anybody who lived through the Kahn era can't possibly take for granted that we got a guy who knows what the hell, largely speaking, who's going to age well, who's not going to say something or do something incredibly stupid, right? That is going to be embarrassing throughout the league. We may not win titles, but we're not going to be the laughing stock. That's the yin and the yang of it. The two extremes right there, don't you think?
And Wolves fans, keep this in mind before Aaron and Laurie asked for $500 million to build a stadium, that it was because of them that Connolly's with the Wolves.
Well, that's also true. There's no question. That's right. That's undeniable. You think they're not going to ask for that much? They're not going to get. They know they're not going to. They're going to try to get tax breaks, I think.
Yeah, but they want to build the stadium of the future. And Steve Ballmer has set the bar high now for what a new stadium can be when you've got the facial recognition and you've got chargers in every seat and then you've got the European stands side where you could just stand for the entire game and scream at people. They're going to want all that stuff and more. So I'm just curious to see where it's going to be built at. I keep hearing different spots, Farmers Market, tearing down City Center, building there. Building across. See, I was told 6 months ago that they could possibly build across 6th Street and include Butler Square. Now the one is about them going across First Avenue and including Mayo Center. That's the rumor now.
What about next to IKEA at the Mall of America?
Bloomington always likes to get involved in these things because they've got space and they're still mad because they've lost. They had what, hockey and baseball there and football
and baseball.
Yeah, they had it all.
Yeah.
Hell, they tried to bid on the last World's Fair, and who cares about the World's Fair?
Yeah, you're right about that.
World's Fair is a wonderful civic party.
Hey, that was one of your best segments ever. When we had they lost out to what? Was Afghanistan? No, it was. What country did they lose to? You guys had the director for the Convention and Visitors Bureau from that country on your show.
That's right, we did.
I don't even, you got a better memory than
what country was he from?
The show than it's my show. I don't remember. What country was it? Do you remember?
I'll look it up.
Oh, look it up. I have absolutely. I kind of vaguely remember that. Yeah. By the way, Allery's Bar and Barbecue downtown St. Paul is your home for free parking, and was your home for Wild Shuttles. Was your home?
Yeah, it was.
For Wild Shuttles, because that's gone, but certainly not forgotten.
They also do shuttles for the Loons games, which would be important on May 10th when Lionel Messi and Inter Miami are in town.
Oh, you'll be there. You wouldn't miss that.
I have my press pass already secured.
They sponsor, of course, this fine segment. I don't want to talk any Twins today. We've done a lot of Wild talk, a lot of Wolves talk. Anything else? What are you writing for Sunday? Do you know yet?
I wrote Wild. I wrote how they should attack this roster.
Okay.
Because I want a center. I want an impact center. So they need to lengthen their depth, because I love the first line. When you put act between Kaprizov and Boldy, it's fabulous. It looks like a legitimate number one line for the NHL. Now you've got to start working on the second line, and you start in the middle.
Yeah, I can't argue with you about any of that for sure. All right, that'll be Sunday.
Yep.
We'll be reading.
Sure will.
Thank you as always.
Thanks, Dan.
Be good. Have a good afternoon and good weekend. That is Lavelle Neal III, largely on the condition of your favorite hockey team, now eliminated, and the condition of your favorite basketball team, the Wolves, now just waiting. They're waiting to find out. They may know later tonight who they're playing. If Golden State takes care of business at home against the Houston Rockets, then the Wolves know they'll be playing the Warriors, and Game 1 would be Monday night at Target Center. Game 2 Wednesday, right? Isn't it Monday, Wednesday, or Monday, Thursday? If it's the Warriors, if we know the Warriors have won it tonight.
According last year's schedule, it was an every other day bid.
Yeah, I think it's Monday, Wednesday, and then it would then be Friday, Sunday in San Francisco.
Okay.
Now, if the series is extended or it's Houston, the series would start either Tuesday in Houston or Tuesday here.
Correct.
Is my understanding of it.
Yes.
So that is if Houston is able to extend to a game 7. I expect your guy, is it Dylan? What's his name? Dylan Brooks?
Dylan Brooks.
I expect him. I think there's a chance he might be arrested tonight in San Francisco.
I think he might actually try to rip Curry's thumb off.
I do. Exactly. He's going to try to dislocate his thumb.
Yes.
I don't. And then kind of go like, what? What'd I do? I'm just playing basketball.
Right.
And then maybe Draymond goes after him. Cats and dogs living together. And then the Pacers guards his father.
I was going to say John Halliburton
jumps in somehow.
Del Curry's not going on the floor, right?
No, that's very, very
true. He seems
David.
pretty even keel.
Yeah, relatively speaking. All right, let's make this the top of the hour pause. A couple more hockey items, Wild related to get to, and some texts to explore as well before we wrap things up.
Time is precious, and so are our pets. So time with our pets is extra precious. That's why we started Dutch. Dutch provides 24/7 access to licensed vets with unlimited virtual visits and follow-ups for up to 5 pets. You can message a vet at any time and schedule a video visit the same day. Our vets can even prescribe medication for many ailments, and shipping is always free. With Dutch, you'll get more time with your pets and year-round peace of mind when it comes to their vet care.
6:30. Belgrade, not quite Afghanistan. Belgrade in Yugoslavia was the town that we were competing against for. What event was it?
The World's Fair.
World's Fair, that's right. And we had on a gentleman from the Belgrade Chamber of Commerce, as I recall.
Something like
Some
that.
big falutin title.
He was part of the pitch.
That's true. And he was not very kind to this market, as I recall.
No, he said America was Vegas and Disney World.
That's true. That's
is essentially what I remember. I can't believe Lavelle remembered that. I'd forgotten that.
That's a good recall. That's outstanding recall, actually. We need to squeeze in this.
It's the Bumper to Bumper Seal of Approval.
Can't make this one up. Over nearly 18 years, a man named Tim Freedy, 57 years old, injected himself with more than 650 carefully calibrated, escalating doses of snake venom.
Excuse me?
To build his immunity to 16 deadly snake species. Monty did this too, didn't he, Monty Creason? I'm pretty
Probably.
sure. He also allowed the snakes, mostly one at a time, but sometimes two, to sink their sharp fangs into him about 200 times.
It's real. It's raw at times.
And right about now, you're saying, seal of approval for this clown? Well, keep listening. This bit of daredevilry may now help to solve a dire global health problem. More than 600 species of venomous snakes roam the earth, biting as many as 2.7 million people, killing about 120,000 people and maiming 400,000 others. Numbers thought to be vast underestimates. In Mr. Freedy's blood, scientists now say they have identified antibodies that are capable of neutralizing the venom of multiple snake species, a step towards creating a universal antivenom. Quote from Tim Freedy, I am really proud that I can do something in life for humanity to make a difference for people that are 8,000 miles away that I'm never going to meet, never going to talk to, never going to see ever, probably. How about that?
It's a big sacrifice.
Now, what I'm not sure of is whether this was part of his grand plan or he's got some weird fetish or what the deal is. But that doesn't strike me as a particularly satisfying way to live. How about you?
No, to just continuously let a snake plunge their fangs?
I don't think this is an Onion story. I think it's real. It was in the New York Times, so it has to be. Well, not according to President Trump, but other people. Yeah, here's the headline on it. Universal antivenom may grow out of man who lets snakes bite him 200 times. Now, my concern about giving him the seal of approval is whether we're sending the wrong message.
For other people to do that?
Kids, don't try this at home with your favorite, venomous snakes. Because I have to think that there's some risks attached with experimenting in this way, don't you think?
I think there are numerous risks. And he's dodged a lot of bullets, I think. And a lot of venom.
Did you also, have any idea that venomous snakes kill about 120,000 people a year, maim 400,000 others every year?
No. That many?
That's...
Where? It can't be... where is this mostly happening?
Well, maybe it's not every year, because the sentence is killing about 100... that they bite as many as 2.7 million people, killing about 120,000 people and maiming 400,000 others. Maybe that's over the last... It doesn't really say, is that over the last 40 years? But then they add this caveat. Numbers thought to be vastly underestimated. I don't know how you come up with those kinds of numbers.
No.
But there you have it. I wonder...
I don't do snakes, man.
At what point do you, as you're allowing these snakes to bite you, do you go, I wonder if I might have so much venom in me that I might actually end up saving lives? How do you get to that point? How do you become identified by doctors or scientists as, hey, we got to check this guy out? He might end up having the key to saving lots of lives.
Probably after the first 30 or 40 minutes when you're sitting there and you're feeling fine.
That's just stunning, isn't it?
Yes.
On the one more thing, I want to revisit the stat.
It's a risky long play, too.
Yes, I would think it would be, yes.
Well, I've been doing this for however many years you said.
Yeah.
And all these different doses to kind of get you up to a certain level of antibodies. What if you put a little bit too much in the vial one day and then it's over? Like, that just seems like a needless game, but...
Well, it sounds a bit reckless.
He's saving the world.
But he may well... Yeah, I got to believe if there's not a Netflix series on this guy already in production, there will be soon, right? And it's got all the elements that you're looking for.
It does.
Does it not?
It does.
So
and none of the Laker ones are going to get made this year because... Luka didn't win the series, so you can't have the flu game. LeBron's knee, you can't have the MCL.
Well, here's how it'll be. When Joker is traded to the Lakers this offseason
with Giannis,
and with Giannis, then the start of the doc will be the agony of defeat, losing, being eliminated and humiliated at home to the Wolves. That's when it'll start.
Yep.
And then we'll work up how it builds and how he recovers, how the Lakers recover, how Luka recovers with his new best friend, Joker.
Man. I don't rule that out, by the way. I rule nothing out happening for the Lakers.
Well, in all honesty, the great unknown is how Joker deep down feels about the Malone dismissal. Now, maybe it'll depend largely on, how mad can he be? If they make a run like to the conference finals, even after making this coaching change, I don't know how mad he can be, right? I'm not sure. That would indicate that Adelman's done a decent job keeping it together.
I like his interviews. I think he does pretty good interviews.
Yeah, he handles himself pretty well.
And they're obviously playing better than people thought they would.
The stat about the Wild had lost 42 straight postseason games in which they trailed going into the third period. which sounds ominous, but we had laid out stats that, in fact, everybody, you'd be surprised how many good teams, even championship teams, have horrific records in that regard, and it can get a little misleading. And Russo, who is going to try to join us on Sunday, working around, I think, player interviews that morning, he's reminding us, like a good example, Game 7, 2014, if you want to go back far enough, while we're tied entering the third period, then rallied twice in the third from a goal down to win an OT. So that's where it's deceptive. They went into the third period not losing, but then, because sometimes you can make your comeback in the period, right? Once the period begins. Sometimes maybe you come back, lose the lead again. So I'll say again that there are a lot of concerning stats regarding the Wild and their inability to get out of round one. But you'll be, I guess, surprised how many even good teams have pretty bad records when it comes to being trailing going into the third period of a game. And then, as I said, what about the stat where what if you're tied going into the third, fall behind, and then still come back? What are those stats?
A lot of variables.
There are a lot of variables to consider. So if you're looking for stats to make the Wild look bad, there are others that might be more effective at this particular point, and sadly enough, there's plenty of them. We'll come back, wrap up the program, give you some highlights from a very candid conversation with Mike Conley and another more animated, because that's his nature, conversation with Sam Mitchell.
Time is precious, and so are our pets. So time with our pets is extra precious. That's why we started Dutch. Dutch provides 24/7 access to licensed vets with unlimited virtual visits and follow-ups for up to 5 pets. You can message a vet at any time and schedule a video visit the same day. Our vets can even prescribe medication for many ailments, and shipping is always free. With Dutch, you'll get more time with your pets and year-round peace of mind when it comes to their vet care.
As well. Don't go.
Show wrap presented by American Pressure, commercial grade pressure washer since 1975.
It's the Bumper to Bumper Show Wrap.
All righty. Don't forget, enough said tonight. Gaardsy, me, Lori Fisher's back from her trip wrestling with alligators in Florida. I think that's 7:30 on Fox 9 Plus, and then I believe 10:30 on Fox 9 tonight.
More UFL football on Fox 9.
Oh, man.
You got to get it in.
Can't get enough UFL football. I'm still down that we don't have a... Are we going to get an expansion team in that league?
I don't think so.
Why? Why not?
Remember we tried? We had the indoor league, too.
Yeah, it didn't work
We had
very
arena
well.
and indoor, and none of that really worked.
We're a Vikings town, eh? That's the moral of the story?
I guess so.
Great conversation today with Mike Conley at about 3:30. You can podcast it later. A free-ranging discussion with Sam Mitchell starting at about 5:15, 5:20 or so. And by the way, Sam is picking the Wolves. He thinks they would easily beat the Warriors in 5. He thinks Houston would be more challenging, but he likes them there, too. So
we're back in that heady conversation stuff that we were a year ago.
Yeah. Now, I'll remind you, because Sam nailed the Lakers series, but Sam also said we would beat the Mavericks last year, which obviously did not work out all that well. But I like their chances against either of these teams. I'm very curious to see how it goes tonight. I'm hoping to get Russo on Sunday's show if he has time. I think he's going to be talking to sort of the exit interview period with Wild players, if that's the plan. I may try to add Alan Horton, who last year became a Sunday regular during the playoffs. And at that point could well be previewing a Monday Game 1 from Target Center if Golden State takes care of business tonight. I like the Warriors' chances to win tonight.
I do too.
I think the Warriors are aware that they might be playing with Farr if they allow it to go to 7 back to Houston. They got handled by Houston in Game 5.
But then the backups kind of made it interesting for a minute. I don't know if you stuck with it.
I did. I actually did. It was crazy. What did they cut it to, like 9?
I thought it was like 14, maybe 11.
Maybe it was 11. You're right. I don't think they ever got it to single digits.
But had shots.
Well, they were down 30.
Yeah.
And made it, and he made the decision. Did Kerr? The old decision always then is, well, do I go back to my regulars?
Yeah,
which I think he was smart to not do it.
He basically said, "You don't really do that."
No, and it's not even, and it was still even that probably at that point a long shot, but it was quite a comeback.
Here's a trivia question for you that I don't know the answer to. You might. Has there ever been a 6 versus 7
Oh, that is a good
semifinal?
question. That's a very good question.
I mean, it's. I'm sure we could look it up, obviously, but it seems unlikely, right? Not that many.
Not that many, certainly.
Where a 6 seed is going to have home court advantage in the second round of the playoffs.
Yeah. I was fascinated by Sam's willingness to hammer. Usually in your coaching fraternity, you don't want to hammer a coach, but he went after Redick for that pregame presser where Redick got very petulant and very defensive very quickly to a setup question. Yeah. But Mitchell's about, basically saying you're going to lean on your assistant coaches more so that you don't do something stupid like play 5 players the entire half. And Sam's point was, all right, you can think it's a loaded question, but I mean, just answer it. Don't lose your mind that way. Right. Don't put the mic down. This is right before the game that you have to win. It didn't seem to send a very good message about the temperament and the state of calm of one J.J. Redick for that game.
It's been interesting to hear some of his former ESPN colleagues kind of reference the J.J. temper the last couple of days.
Is that right?
Just about. There's times where he kind of seethes about stuff just in regular life when he was, a podcaster and, on Get Up and First Take and everything. Once he gets kind of in a mode, I think Wilbon even said, he seethes and it's not helpful to him.
That's a good word for it because he was seething when he put that microphone down.
You know why he was seething?
Why is that?
He didn't have any answers.
No, he knew he was cooked.
He knew he was cooked.
And
Wolves back.
Conley and Mike Conley agreed with us that first quarter they could sense it in that game that that they too expected to maybe get the Lakers' best shot, and it was almost like Lakers knew that they really didn't have any kind of card to play. He endorsed the notion that he too wanted more of his teammates to go downhill.
That was great.
Rather than settle for 3-pointers.
That was so good.
But then he also acknowledged that he wanted badly the chance to hit the key three-pointer of the game when it was still a ball game.
Yeah.
By the way, it's still a ball game at that point.
It was a 3-point game.
Demanding, because he said DiVincenzo was going to be the guy to go to the corner, and Conley says, no. You stay out here.
Yeah.
I'm going to the corner. I feel good. I just came off the bench. I'm going to hit this shot.
The other thing about that video, and I don't even know, I told him this after. I said, be careful. This might be a tell. If you watch that video, he does send Dante back to the wing, but then he starts blowing on his left hand. Like he's warming it up.
Yeah.
And he's like, He goes, I was warming up my hand.
Yeah.
I said, you knew the ball was coming. He said, I thought it was. It's a funny video with all that backdrop.
It is, actually. You're right.
And then he just coaxed that thing in.
Final question from the audience. This comes from Goat Guy. More snake bitten, anti-venom guy, or the Wild in the playoffs? This is very well played. Very well played, Goat Guy. Awfully negative, though. Got a lot of Wild fans out there.
Does Goat Guy want perfection?
I guess she's looking for, He apparently thinks it's Stanley Cup or nothing. We're carrying the cup around or nothing, I guess. So we shall see. Again, I believe this or not, don't believe it. The idea of having a month of May, a complete month of May, which is just beginning, of covering the Wild and the Wolves in the playoffs would be nirvana to the Bumper to Bumper show.
For everybody.
Love it. We would not
Fans would love it.
Enough of all of that. But once again, it ends as quickly as it begins. Maybe there are some people who are happier last year when we didn't even make the playoffs. So they wouldn't have to worry about, one and done again. There you go. Can't get out of the first round. Maybe it's easier to just not make the playoffs. Maybe that's the answer. I don't know. But we better make the playoffs next year, and
I think we will.
We better do something with that opportunity as well. Fan on Demand is going to follow us tonight, and then it is Dan Patrick. Sunday sermons, as I said, I hope to get Russo on because I want to do a deep dive with him as we look forward for this team, some of the key issues right off the bat, and maybe a little Alan Horton as well to perhaps preview Game 1 of the next series for the Wolves, if it's indeed the Warriors on Monday night. Or, now I assume Game 7 would be Sunday. We would then be previewing Rockets-Warriors Game 7 to find out who the Wolves will play. And he usually's got some good analytics and statistical nuggets as well for us to discuss. Thanks for watching today. Thank you for listening. And we will talk to you Sunday morning at 9.
If you ever go to Houston, got to walk right, got to keep your hands deep in your pocket and your gun belt tight. Thank you for the memories. Thank you for the great time. We love you, Dan.
The job is done. We can go home now.
Time is precious, and so are our pets. So time with our pets is extra precious. That's why we started Dutch. Dutch provides 24/7 access to licensed vets with unlimited virtual visits and follow-ups for up to 5 pets. You can message a vet at any time and schedule a video visit the same day. Our vets can even prescribe medication for many ailments, and shipping is always free. With Dutch, you'll get more time with your pets and year-round peace of mind when it comes to their vet care.